This week in game news, Cardboard Computer released an image teasing Act 4 of Kentucky Route Zero, XKCD number 1608 is playable, PlayStation 4 sales surpassed 30.2 million worldwide, the Indivisible prototype demo hit Steam, allowing you to try out Lab Zero's hotly anticipated ARPG, the Play Expo will be held in Glasgow, Scotland in 2016, and a whole bunch of things went on sale. Later on in this episode of Game News Update is our guide on how to pick the right console for you. This is the Blackman and Robin Game News Update. In game releases this week, Saint Seiya Soldier's Soul was released on Steam for Windows. Based on the Saint Seiya anime series, the game has gotten pretty good reviews thus far. It's not perfect, however, as it does have some issues with frame rate. Still, critics have praised the simplistic combat in this fighter for being relatively straightforward. If you're a fan of the show, you'll likely enjoy it. Personally, it's not a franchise I'm familiar with, but I must say that I dig the aesthetic. In addition to being available on Windows, Saint Seiya Soldier's Soul is also out on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3. Now out of early access on Steam is the game Land of Lamia. It's a mystery puzzler in which you control the two main characters, Lily and Thomas, simultaneously. The game's premise is that you and your sibling wake up to discover that your bedroom has been transported someplace strange. You're in the titular Land of Lamia, which is straight out of a storybook. Thus far, the game has gotten pretty good reception from players, and while I've not tried it, I like the aesthetic and concept. The premise, gameplay-wise, reminds me a bit of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. The Land of Lamia is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. On November 27, 1995, Namco filed U.S. Patent 5718632, which was for, get ready, a recording medium, a method of loading games program code, and a game machine is provided. The recording medium has a program code relating to an auxiliary game and a program code relating to a main game. The size of the auxiliary game program code is small compared to the size of the main game program code, and the relationship between the auxiliary game program code and the main game program code is such that the auxiliary game program code is loaded first, before the main game program code. Unnecessary wastage of time can be prevented by first loading the smaller auxiliary game program code into the game's machine, before the main game program code is loaded, then loading the main game program code while the auxiliary game is running. That is an extremely convoluted way of saying that Namco patented minigames during loading screens over 20 years ago. It doesn't appear that the patent has ever been challenged in court. The fast loader routine Invadaload by Richard Applin would likely have been presented in court if Namco attempted to sue anybody over this. Invadaload by Richard Applin came out in 1987 and was used in games by Mastertronic 8 years before the patent was filed by Namco Bandai. Invadaload allowed you to play a Space Invaders clone on your Commodore 64 while the main game was loading. So this idea of loading screen games isn't anything new, and a couple games do employ it. For example, Splatoon by Nintendo has a loading screen minigame platformer. That said, relatively few games employ loading screen minigames. The patent's expiry means that we may be seeing more games in loading screens. Right now, there's a game jam being held that opened on Friday, November 27, 2015, and it ends on December 4, 2015. It invites developers to create games, according to the jam's description, based on infringing the now-defunct patent in any way possible. You can follow the hashtag LoadingJam on Twitter, or visit its page at itch.io/jam/loading-screen-jam if you'd like to participate. Personally, I think that Namco's patent was a little bit absurd. Should game mechanics and elements like loading screen games be patentable? Let us know what you think on Twitter or Instagram at Blackman and Robin. We'll be sharing the best comments on next week's episode. So right around now, there are some great discounts on video game hardware and software. There's a chance that you're in the market for a brand new console. Maybe you're thinking about a Wii U, or an Xbox One, or a PlayStation 4, and you're wondering, how do I pick? Each console brings something different to the table. Frankly, between the Xbox One, PS4, and Wii U, you really can't go wrong picking one. That said, it pays to know just what you're buying. Each console comes with its own unique set of advantages and perks. So while I wouldn't say that there's any one console to get that's the right console, you do have to decide what's the right console for you. To give a quick overview of the three main consoles, the first is the Wii U.
This is Wii U. It's an entirely new console from Nintendo.
Coming from Nintendo, it was the first console of the current generation to be released. Much like its predecessor, the Wii, it's not particularly powerful in comparison to its contemporaries. However, it does employ a rather unique control scheme, and of course it has the much sought-after Nintendo exclusives. If you need to get your Mario Kart fix, if you want to smash your friends in Smash Brothers, or if you're looking for a little bit of real-time strategy fun with Pikmin, which is pretty much the only worthwhile RTS on console until Halo Wars is emulated on the Xbox One, Wii U is for you. The second console to be introduced in this generation, the PlayStation 4 by Sony, is a pretty decent machine. It boasts a better GPU than the competing Xbox One, but has a slightly slower processor. The PS4 was designed to play along nicely with Sony's handheld console with PlayStation Vita. Thanks to a feature called Remote Play, it's possible to stream games from a PS4 to a Vita. Hence, if your television's occupied, you can still enjoy whatever's on your PS4. The last console to be released this generation was the Xbox One. Much like the PlayStation 4, it too has an x86 processor, and recently it gained a whole bunch of features thanks to a system update that improved the user interface and brought emulation of Xbox 360 games. It also has what's regarded as the best controller of the main three consoles. Of course, what constitutes the best controller is subject to personal taste, but the Xbox One controller tends to be favored by PC gamers when they're looking for a controller for their computers. Now, no matter what hardware you pick, it doesn't really mean anything without games to play on it. This is probably where you'll make your decision regarding a console. So, regarding the Wii U, of the three consoles, the Wii U has the best backwards compatibility. Any game that ran on the original Wii can be played on the Wii U. Hence, it has the largest library of the three main consoles. Add to this the Virtual Console, Nintendo's service that features games from other older platforms such as the Nintendo 64, GameCube, and Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and you're looking at countless hours of retro goodness. If you didn't own the original Wii, there are plenty of great games from that system worth checking out. Of course, the Wii U is more than just old games. Plenty of great new games are constantly coming out for the platform. There are the old Nintendo standards, you'll find your Smash Brothers, your Super Mario platformers, and if you need a Zelda fix, Wind Waker has been re-released on the console in HD, with Twilight Princess to follow, and a brand new game coming at some point in the future, hopefully 2016. If you're more of an RPG lover, rest assured the Wii U has you covered. Monster Hunter 3 is available on the system, and the hotly anticipated Xenoblade Chronicles X is set to be released on December 4th, 2015. The Wii U is also home to Nintendo's fantastic squid-filled shooter Splatoon. The game is noteworthy for being a family-friendly shooter. In Splatoon, your goal is not to murder everybody. Rather, the objective is to paint an arena with your team's color of ink. It's good, clean fun, and if you're worried about your kids talking to strangers in a multiplayer game, rest assured that Splatoon has no voice chat capabilities. In spite of this, however, it works fine as a team-based game. What the Wii U doesn't tend to receive are a lot of big AAA games. If you're looking for a console for Fallout 4 or Final Fantasy 15, you'll not find it in the Wii U. That said, there are a lot of worthwhile games on the Wii U. Besides the great first-party titles from Nintendo, it's also home to a lot of cool indies. 5 games on the Wii U worth picking up are 1. Splatoon, which is a really great creative shooter. I mentioned it earlier. It's family-friendly, it's good, clean fun, and it's updated regularly, which is quite important. Then there's SteamWorld Dig, which is a Metroidvania in which you play as Rusty the Robot. It's a game I've recommended quite frequently for good reason. You can check out a review of that at blackmanandrobin.com. There's also Super Mario Maker, which is a Mario game in which you have to create the levels. You can also try levels created by other players. While sharing levels calls for a clunky system of codes, on the whole, Super Mario Maker is worth checking out, especially if you are considering taking up game design as a hobby. Next up is Lego City Undercover, a Lego game in which you play as a cop. It's one of the few open-world games that you can share with the kids. Even if you don't have kids, rest assured, there's still plenty of fun there for older audiences. Finally, there's Super Smash Bros. Nintendo's signature fighting game. Super Smash Bros. Has been out for a while on the Wii U, and it's gotten great reviews. Nintendo has been pretty regular about adding new characters via DLC, and as of the time of this video's creation, Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII has been announced for Super Smash Bros. Now, regarding the PlayStation 4, at current, the PS4 doesn't have backwards compatibility, and it most likely never will be able to run PlayStation 3 games. The reason for this is because the PlayStation 3's processor architecture was rather unusual. The system is a great challenge to emulate. That said, Sony is working on bringing emulation for PlayStation 2 games to the PlayStation 4. So while it doesn't have a tremendous back catalog of older games, the PlayStation 4 is home to plenty of big exclusives, as well as a satisfactory number of indie games. Regarding big exclusives, the PlayStation 4 has quite a few of them, and they tend to be RPGs. The Final Fantasy X/10-2 HD Remaster is exclusive to Sony's consoles, and the absurdly named upcoming Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, yes, got it on one try, is only going to be available on the PlayStation 4. The PS4 also tends to have more console exclusivity deals. Essentially, a game will only either appear on PS4 or PC, such as Transistor, Helldivers, Street Fighter V, Torin, and Shenmue 3.
They'll find us again. They'll find you and finish the job. Unless you find them first.
5 PlayStation 4 games worth grabbing are 1. Rocket League, a soccer game in which you play as a car. It's kind of absurd, but a whole lot of fun, and it gets really regular updates from the developers, including free DLC, which is great. There's Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection, which comes with Uncharted 1 for free. Great if you never owned the franchise on the PlayStation 3. There's Race the Sun, which is a sort of single-player racing game in which you have a solar-powered craft and you must try not to crash, and you have to keep up with the sun. It's lots of fun and very simple. Then there's Journey Collector's Edition, which in addition to coming with the fantastic adventure game Journey, also comes with the games Flower and Flow, if you're feeling really zen. And then finally there's Little Big Planet Free, which also came out on the PlayStation 3. Seeing as the PlayStation 4 isn't getting PS3 emulation, it might be worth picking up if you never owned a PS3. Moving on to the Xbox One. The Xbox One doesn't have a particularly long list of third-party exclusives. Many of the exclusives available on the Xbox One are from Microsoft Studios. That said, the PlayStation 4 tends to be the home to RPGs, while the Xbox One is where you'll find a lot of the action games. The Halo franchise shall continue being on the console for the foreseeable future. Besides the 5th game being available on the Xbox One, the Master Chief Collection is also available. Halo, the Master Chief Collection comes with Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, and Halo 4. Additionally, Halo 3 ODST is available as DLC for the Master Chief Collection. Have you had enough Halo yet? No? Alright. Halo Wars is going to be available on the Xbox One thanks to the magic of emulation, and Halo Wars 2 is coming out next autumn. The Xbox One also has a number of timed console exclusives, such as Rise of a Tomb Raider, which is out now, and Superhot, which is coming out sometime in the future. 5 Xbox One games worth checking out are Halo 5 Guardians, which is obviously the 5th entry in the Halo series and doesn't really need much explanation, Dance Central Spotlight, which is a dance game that utilizes the Kinect on the Xbox One, and of course it's a dance game that's not for everybody, we understand. That said, if you enjoy dancing, check out Dance Central Spotlight. Then there's the Rare Replay, which is a collection of old Rare games. No, not games that are necessarily uncommon, but games from the company known as Rare. So if you're looking for Jet Force Gemini or Banjo-Kazooie on the Xbox One, pick up Rare Replay. Number 4 is Beyond Eyes, a 3D adventure game in which you play as a blind girl. I know, it sounds kind of weird, a video game about blindness, but believe me, it's pretty interesting. I've heard some really great things about it. While it's short, it is very beautiful. Finally, there's Forza Horizon 2. The latest game in the Forza series, Forza Horizon 2 is actually an open-world racer, and it's gotten pretty great reviews. So now, regarding the perks, in addition to having some great games, each console has some pretty unique perks. These are worth considering when picking one up. Here they are, rapid fire. So for the Wii U, there's free online multiplayer, and unlike the competition, you don't have to pay a subscription fee to enjoy multiplayer on the Wii U. While there's no Plus service to pay for, it is the most economical choice if you'd like to play online but can't guarantee that you can pay for it. The tablet controller is also interesting. Some games employ the Wii U's unique tablet in rather gimmicky ways. Others use it brilliantly. My beloved Splatoon, for example, has changed the way that I think about third-person shooters. Much like the Kinect, it can be lame when it's underutilized, but pleasantly useful when employed right. Finally, there's the backward compatibility on the Wii U. Chances are, the Xbox One will never play every Xbox 360 game, in much the same way that the 360 can't play every Xbox original. The Wii U, however, can play every Wii game. Hence, if you are a game collector, the Wii U will spare you from having to purchase a Wii.
And for everything from menu selections to shortcut commands in modern games.
On to the PlayStation 4, there's the upcoming PlayStation VR. The PS4 is the only console in the current generation to have announced support for virtual reality. PlayStation VR, previously codenamed Project Morpheus, has some very cool games coming, such as Riggs and Ark Survival Evolved. There's also Remote Play. If you're heavily invested in Sony's gaming ecosystem, that is, if you own a Vita, Remote Play allows you to play your PS4 games using your Vita as a screen and controller. Then there's PlayStation Plus. Online multiplayer used to be free on the PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 4 dropped this in exchange for PlayStation Plus, which costs $9.99 per month. It's cheaper to pay for longer subscriptions, mind you. But this PlayStation Plus comes with 6 games each month. They're yours to keep so long as you keep paying for PlayStation Plus. They become locked, however, until you start paying again. Now, regarding the Xbox One, it has Xbox 360 emulation. The Xbox 360 has a great library of games, and while not all of them will be available on the Xbox One through emulation, over 100 are currently available, and many more are on the way. There's also Kinect. Now, the Kinect for the Xbox One has gotten a lot of hate, largely because it was a pack-in for the Xbox One initially and it raised the price of the console. So while it's not a must-have, it does open the way for motion-based games, and, surprise, there are a few worth having, such as Dance Central Spotlight. Additionally, the voice commands for the console are a nice touch. Then, too, there's Xbox Live. Much like the PlayStation 4's Plus subscription service, online multiplayer on the Xbox One will cost you. That said, if you're paying for your subscription, you'll get games with gold. Just like on the PlayStation 4, you'll get some games per month. 4 with the Xbox Live Gold subscription. Republic has been announced this week for the PlayStation 4. Previously released on iOS and PC, it's an episodic dystopian stealth game in which you play as a woman named Hope. The game launched almost 2 years ago, and its 5th and final episode has yet to be released. The PlayStation 4 version of the game is going to be the complete edition, all 5 episodes. The game was a success on Kickstarter, and while it's coming along slowly, it's nice to see that Republic is still being worked on. Speaking of the PlayStation 4, there's now a workaround to use the PlayStation 4's Remote Play on Windows. Remote Play on the PS4 is a feature that lets you stream games to a PS Vita. If your television's occupied, you'll still be able to enjoy Little Big Planet. Suppose, though, that you'd like to play PS4 games on your PC. Well, now there's a solution thanks to Twisted, aka at Twist3D89 on Twitter. Remote Play PC is currently in alpha, but it'll allow you to stream from your PS4 to your PC. What's interesting is that it has lower latency than Sony's official Remote Play solution for the PlayStation Vita, and it has dynamic controls. You can play games with either your PlayStation 4 controller or map them to a mouse and keyboard. Twisted is currently selling the software in small batches, the reason for this being that he can't afford to be overwhelmed doing tech support for a bunch of people. He plans to make Remote Play PC available to more people once it's more polished. You can follow at Twist3D89 on Twitter in order to receive more updates on his software, and of course know when Remote Play PC will be available for you. We'll have a link to the download page at blackmanandrobin.com. Hilariously enough, however, it turns out that Sony is, internally, working on a solution for Remote Play. As tweeted by Shuhei Yoshida, some people asked if we plan to provide Remote Play function to PC, and yes, we are indeed working on an official application for PC and Mac. Generally, my ears stop up upon the mention of the words dungeon crawler. My eyes will just about instantly glaze over if I notice that one has pixel art. But today I have to make an exception for a game called Temple of Yog. In development for the Wii U, this game is set to be released December 16, 2015. What sets it apart is that the game's meant to be played across two screens, your television and your Wii U gamepad. As you enter the titular Temple of Yog, you can switch between two worlds, the light on your television and the shadow on your gamepad. The environment changes between the two worlds, as do some creatures, and you'll have to figure out puzzles and try to survive to the end by swapping back and forth between the two. While I've not yet played the game, I have heard some very good things about it. It's gotten great reception from players and has been featured at a few shows. Finally, a new trailer has been released for the upcoming Stories of the Path of Destinies. In development by Spearhead Games of Montreal, it's currently in development for the PlayStation 4 and PC. The game stars the roguish fox Reynardo, who joins a war against a mad emperor. There's no word on when this game's coming out, but it's one that I'll be keeping an eye on. If you're going to the PlayStation Experience, it'll be playable at booth number 2061. I'm honestly not sure how this game will play. I do know that it's an ARPG, and the press release I received mentions that Reynardo uses Sword Fu. The developers are promising, in their words, fluid, offense-oriented combat. Here's hoping the game turns out as good as the trailer looks. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Game News Update. For all the latest game news, reviews, previews, and interviews, be sure to follow at Blackman and Robin on Twitter. For my own views, follow me at Jordan_Cameron. For convenient links to all the stuff we showed off this week, check out our site, blackmanandrobin.com.